Okay, let's begin by. Well, I guess that's why we have the name tag, but the name tag kind of identify who we are, but we're gonna recognize Mr. Marlon Williams, our auditor. He's with us in person today. Good to see him. I think everyone else is all present and accounted for, except for Mr. Talent. I'm sure he will be along any minute. But we're going to go on and get started. This is the City of Duncanville Audit Committee meeting in person and via Zoom video conference. Today is Friday, January 27, 2003. According to my watch, 3:05. And so we will just dive right in. Well, I guess I should read this thing. Supplemental notice of meeting by video conference in accordance with an order of the Office of the Governor issued on.
Turn right on the South Main Street.
You're almost there.
That's checking traffic. Not that. Who's talking is on.
In accordance with an order of the Office of the Governor issued on March 16, 2020, as extended, the Audit Committee will conduct an Audit Committee meeting in person and by video conference at 3 p.m. on Friday, January 27, 2023. To advance the public health goal of limiting face-to-face meetings, also called social distancing, in an effort to slow the spread of the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. This is an open meeting conducted in person by video conference. And so we will call this meeting to order, and we have the next thing that we will focus on is receiving public comments. So, Ms. Gilman.
Mr. Chairman, there were no public comments received by electronic mail.
All right, thank you so much. We will now consider approval of draft meeting minutes of the meeting that we held on December 14, 2022. And I've got a couple of things that I want to call attention to. I think these are page 306, second paragraph. Chairman Harvey suggested to Commissioner Harvey. Yeah, I do talk to myself from time.
So your brother was sitting in on.
No, my brother would be caught dead or something. Anyway. So yeah, that's
Okay.
something, and there was something else, but I don't have that marked off right now. Does any other commissioner have?
Okay, on the fourth page, that first line confirmed that he understood Miss Atmore's message instead of the,
Oh, very
which
good.
is picky, I know. but-
No, they need to be correct. Thank you for these corrections.
Anyone else? All right. Then if we have all the corrections identified, the chair will entertain a motion to adopt minutes of the meeting on Wednesday, September 14, 2022.
I'll make the motion with the amended change noted.
I'll second.
Any questions? Okay, the call for the vote, we'll do it by a show of hands. All those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? It passes unanimously 4-0. Thank you.
Now, we still have not approved some of those prior meetings. Isn't that correct?
That is correct. And so what I want to do is on the future agenda, and I'm so glad you mentioned that. Is that on the future agenda, what I'd like to do is to ask staff to provide for us all of the minutes of the meetings that we held in calendar year 2022.
Okay.
And along with the auditor presenting the audit at our next meeting, I also would like to, for staff to disseminate the minutes of those meetings to us so that we can go through them and identify those things that still need to be done. And possibly after going through that process, we'll be in a better position to approve them.
Yeah, I wasn't on the committee back then, so we also need to be careful that we have a quorum of people that can vote for that. I mean, I couldn't vote for it one way or the other because I don't know. So,
And to one, Mr. Harvey, Mr. Case and I, as well as Ms. Clark.
so, I mean, we wouldn't have a quorum if we were doing that tonight, because I'm not gonna vote one way or the other.
Well, I understand that. However, I think that the exercise of going through the minutes of the meeting is a good exercise, because at a minimum, it will help set the agenda along with the audit committee for things that we need to address moving forward.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So that brings us, excuse me, to executive session. The audit committee shall convene into closed session to deliberate with the auditor pursuant to section 551.076 and 551.089 of the Texas Government Code regarding security of municipal funds, deployment and implementation of security measures and internet transactions, payment and banking security and related topics, and under such provision, consider future measures to security. To secure, okay. Yeah, municipal fund. Anyway. So that's the topic, and so, staff members, may we have the room?
Yes, sir. I'm gonna push this down.
All right,
We didn't give a time.
time is
15.
3:14.
We're gonna be precise.
There we go.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and we need to do this.
Anyway, okay.
Never mind.
You're back on?
We're back on?
No.
No, not yet?
Very fine.
Oh, shit, okay.
Okay, so it says recording. Okay, I think. It says recording, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, so, necessary action from executive session. There's no action to be taken as a result of executive session. So, Let me open it a little bit, because we're not going in the executive.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, I was saying there's no action to be taken. So the next item on the agenda is discuss status of bank reconciliations with city staff. The question is, how we doing?
How we doing? Well, I will turn it over to Denise Hickman, who is taking the lead on that.
Very good.
Okay, so we are moving ahead. So I'm gonna back up to where we started when we had our last meeting. On December 14th, we talked about, we have a vendor that we brought in and that they
Mine click or something.
MindSphere.
Okay.
Right, and so they installed the software, and then they had to get set up. Around the 16th of December, what they did is they had connection issues, that they had to, not issues, but they had connection procedures that they had to do. We had to buy some licenses and we had to get some, programming. And then we went forward with, Tyler to ask them permission for them to access our system, and then we had to get set up on those procedures. Around the 30th of December, what we did is we were actually having a mini meeting. They provided us with some quick steps specific to our organization, because they had to go through and look at our data on Munis. They had to look at our data, and then we wanted to look at our procedures, so that now our procedures are in line with what we're doing for the bank reconciliation process. January 10th through the 19th, I met with them and did some high-level training on what we do internally. How do we find a bank deposit through the manual process? Because all this bank reconciliation is going to do is speed up the process that we would do manually and go through all of our transactions. And then we had to look at how we actually do our bank deposits, because we have we have fire, we have police, we have library, we have all the departments who are actually preparing their deposits. And then those things hit the bank through that process. And we wanted to make sure that the software would know how we deposit those monies, because we may make a deposit one day for the fire department. And what will happen is they will have checks, they will have cash, and they will actually have credit card. So those transactions come through the Munis software in different processes. And we wanted to make sure, although this vendor had shown to us that he has worked with Munis before, and we actually talked with other places where he worked, we wanted to make sure they understood our bank setup. And they wanted to make sure that they understood our processes. So so from the 30th to the 10th, we did out January 10th. And so on the 19th, we finally had a training with our finance staff, where they went through the processes of what this new bank reconciliation would do. We also invited Gwen, the CIO, to be present to look at what we were doing and what they presented to us from that standpoint. So right now, we're in the process of reconciling the 3 bank accounts. We really feel, or I feel, that the payroll and the accounts payable account will be the easiest to reconcile first, because as you know, we do ZBA. We process, what ZBA is. So those are the easiest ones to do. And then we'll be working on operating in time to load up to the portal for our auditors.
And just so that those who are not familiar with ZBAs and what that is. So ZBA is where we have several accounts at Wells Fargo. It might be an account just for checks, invoices to go through that we pay vendors. There is an account set up for payroll where all the payroll goes through. And it's set up so that when the checks hit, as soon as they hit, then at the end of the day, the bank zeroes it out and takes the money or adds money as is needed to make the balance in that account 0. So in essence, it's just a control measure so that if anybody gets a hold of a payroll advice or payroll check, that they'll only get access to the payroll account and not the total general operating account. And so that account will have 0 at the end of the day, because it's all ZBA, we call it zero balance out to the main operating account that holds millions of dollars. So that's why I want to explain ZBA, because Residential, we don't go through that. We don't have enough money to go through that. I know I don't. So that's what ZBA does, and it's just a mechanism for cities when you have millions of dollars in order to control access to accounts in case somebody gets a hold of a check. Okay.
On the other side too is, doesn't it also allow you to keep this huge amount in one account earning interest?
Well, that's, how we were set up before, October was not. We were not, when we realized we were not earning interest on the Wells Fargo operating account, you know, my mind went kazoo, because I'm looking for the interest in the zero, because in other cities, we have it set up that those big balances are collect, we have an agreement that we get interest. Well, that's not how we had it set up. So we weren't getting money on those balances until we got with Wells Fargo and changed the structure. And now we've set up what we call a Stagecoach investment sweep account, which actually takes the money out of the general operating and invest it and puts it in and out as needed as checks, transactions go through. So now we are earning money. In fact, October, we earned over like $60,000. November is like 70, December 80, big difference. That'll pay somebody's salary for the year. One person's salary will pay everybody.
Why don't you get another account?
Another account. Well, you know, I'll come back to council in the budget and say, look, now that we're earning all this interest, can I have, but no, that's a whole nother story. But what it does for us, it gives us some leverage and puts more interest earnings on
I'm
this.
sorry, Don had a question.
Yes, sir.
So, Ms. Atmore, I appreciate you sharing that. We've always had Wells Fargo, so I'm trying to understand was it a transition with the system that caused us not earning interest, or the way the accounts were set up?
No, it was the way they were set up. When you went through a depository contract, you sit down with Wells Fargo and you structure how you want your accounts to be set up. That is how it was requested. When you look back in all the documents that they asked for, that's how they asked for it to be set up. Okay. Not sure why you don't ask the question, but our goal is to look at any type of earning potential the city has. So the structure, how they set that up, I'm not quite sure why they made that decision, but I've been in
How long was that depository account around?
I believe Wells Fargo came in 17, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know if that was from a previous structure they had and like, cause I believe they had Chase.
Yeah, when Chase, because at Chase they had one. I'm curious. You know, 17, 18, we were at like those minimal interest rates.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering whether or not when they did the setup, they didn't think about it, you know, and now we're in a period of rising rates.
Right.
Where you're getting 3 and a bit, you know, it really, with the amount of money that's sitting out there, it really produces a self thing. So 17, 18, we were at, you know, 12 basis points. So maybe they just didn't consider it. I don't know. I don't
And
like.
maybe they were more focused on the earnings
Yeah.
credit, which pays for the expenses of all
Right,
the
just trying to
transactions going through the
minimize-
account, trying to minimize the
fees.
expenses. for
Yeah.
the
Right,
city.
from the bank account.
But not thinking that, you know, banks have access to other investment means.
Yeah.
That they can
Yeah.
do. So as their interest rates rise, they can take advantage of,
Yeah.
they low, they can take advantage of that too. So we were suffering from going through that in transition with having no interest on $30 million in account. And so I thought that we needed to take the time to restructure that with Wells Fargo so that we could bear some interest.
I did have a question for Ms. Hickman as well, because we discussed the status of the bank reconciliations, and this might go to Ms. Atmore as well. But my ultimate question is gonna be, when are we gonna be caught up?
Oh, we're gonna be caught up for this audit.
And also,
Start next week.
Oh, that is so true. Like I said.
and also too, as just a follow-up, I'd be interested in knowing once everything falls into place, and how long will it take routinely to do a bank reconciliation?
Okay, so, and that's a good point, because when we went through our process at the high level, the vendor actually went through, we imported our BAI files. And we ran through just our operating for 1 month. So when it ran through the accounting transactions and said, these are the items that could be matched up, it was 4 minutes. Okay, just to run through those transactions. So what it does is when it runs through those transactions, and then it allows us to see, in the future, it'll allow us to see maybe the 1 or 2 items that we haven't posted for that month.
So in other words, and if I'm understanding you correctly, this, stop me if I'm wrong in saying that, but it seems like to me that under the new system, you all will be able to reconcile, the bank statement every month.
Yes,
Okay,
yes. That is definitely one of the things.
all right, very good.
Yeah, we are excited because. We are excited.
Not just one bank
All
statement.
around.
Oh, yeah.
We smile when we look at the process and the amount of time, when the vendor showed us, how much he had reconciled and what was left for us to go out and double check and get back with him. He actually setting rules for how to match items, which means that he's looking at how the GL transactions hit the general ledger. And then he's saying, okay, we can set a rule for that. So that the next time you download the bank file, you don't have to manually go do it. It'll automatically clear. And then all we have to do is just double check, do an op roll and say, hey, yep, that's all correct. And we will be done reconciling with all the reports in one file for the.
So it has the capability to recognize recurring.
Yes.
Right, based on what we tell it to do. Right?
Yes,
Very good.
yes.
Any other questions about that? All right, let's move forward. Next item on the agenda is discuss security of financial software system from ransomware attacks with city staff. And so what has happened is, we've been exposed to the bad things that have happened to Dallas Central Appraisal District, the Pearland, Tomball, and other areas. So how do we measure up? Are we ready?
We're ready. Back in July, we had an unforeseen outage. Of our doing, we were changing our batteries, which took the data center down. With the data center going down, we had to bring some people in to get it up. When they came in, we did an assessment of what was going on with the network at that time. And we noted that we were behind on some patches and we needed to look at our equipment. So we did a 90-day assessment. From that 90-day assessment, we looked at where we were with our security patches. All our security patches now are current, and we have put software in place that will patch us regularly. So they see them, I want to say, on the 25th of the month, we push patches out to the workstations as well out as to our network gear. In addition to that, we didn't have redundancy. We have put that in. So if I'm talking too high level, I'll just break it down. It should fail over. So we have firewalls that protect us, doors that protect us from the outside, and they're locked. We have now set those doors up where we have a burglar bar in front of the door, and then you can get in the door, but we have shut all of those holes. So we're in pretty good shape. We're patched currently. We have several antivirus software, so I have to give you that comfort level. We also have a physical appliance, as well as we have a lot of what we call endpoint. If you have your personal computers like Norton's or any other antivirus, but we have the business form of that.
All right, Mr. McBurnett wanted to ask you a question.
Thank you, Spencer. And how about backups?
Our backups are going to the cloud right now. We do use Rubik's and it goes to the cloud. We do have space on AWS, so we have another place to put it. There are plans in the future. Once Fire Station 1 comes up, it will become a failover system, so it'll be an exact replica of what we have here, so we fail over. And those will be done with point in time snapshots, which means that within 45 minutes, I can change the IP addresses and we're back up and running. So we have failover, we're ready to go, and we are constantly taking patches from the vendors because they're, our vendors in the first quadrant. I don't want to say what our vendors are because it's being recorded, but all of our vendors are in the top quadrant, so we get patches regularly, and then we're doing, of course, the know before and other tools to make sure that we make you aware of the doorway, and generally the doorway is 365 new messages, that's how they come in, so we're making everybody aware of that.
All right.
As Ms. Atmore sort of hinted at, there might be some things that are needed, so is there something else potentially needed that would help strengthen us as well?
So, can I say this before she answers this question, because so I know Ms. Spencer knows her job and knows what, she can and should say, because I know we're in a public meeting and I hear everything that she's saying, I guess, nothing being said that might potentially compromise.
Correct.
Anything that we have.
That's why I'm trying to be
Yeah,
very high
yeah.
level, but to let you know, we have the burglar bar on the door plus the door. So it's gonna be something to get in.
Yes, sir.
All right.
So back to and then I had my question.
I didn't hear all of the questions.
You said hello.
Yeah, it did. Well, okay. The bottom line is Ms. Atmore into that, okay? There might be things that she needs, and I'm asking, are the things that you're gonna need to help strengthen the system?
And the answer is yes, we're working, this is a close partnership, by the way. I had the great pleasure of being a finance director too. I don't know if it's a pleasure or curse, I can't tell. But we work very, very close together. So there's some things that we are going to have to change. And I think it's something on the agenda. But how we do the business, how we set things up, the security surrounding the system, that's going to have to change. We call it workflow. That has to change. Right now, as we speak, we're running through an issue with Microsoft that our email is up and down. Are we fixing it? Yes, but our systems run on our email. Believe it or not, Munis runs on our email. So if our email is sporadic, then they can't post a journal. So all of it ties hand in hand. So yes, there are things that we're going to have to do together. And today is just an indication of that.
All right. Okay. I believe this is the last item on the agenda. And thank you all for hanging out with us on Friday. So we're gonna try to make this one quick so we can all make it to happy hour. But the last item on the agenda is discuss overall assessment of the capability of the financial software to maintain accurate financial records and timely financial reporting with city staff. So here's what's going on there. We want to, and we've repeated this before in the past, as a advisory group, advocate on you all's behalf when you feel like there's something out there that can help. You all better do your jobs, especially with the whole Munis and Inco thing, and then the interfacing with IT. So give us 50,000 foot level of where you are now, and can we expect in the budget process to see more improvements moving forward?
Okay, that's a loaded question. When I first read it, I said overall assessment. So I've had experience with Tyler Products going way back to, I guess, 2016, when Tyler Munis, we call it, this is the big baby of Tyler. And it's a massive ERP software. And so in my career, it's not one of the biggest, but because I've had to deal with SAP and Oracle. But Tyler is a very complex piece of software, and for a city this size to have Munis, for me, is like, it may be a bit much. However, we are in bed with Munis at this point, okay? What we did when it was implemented, we know that it wasn't implemented with all the configurations and the whistles we need as a small finance staff to operate efficiently and effectively. What we surmised that we did is that we took the old system we were on, which was Banner, and we said, okay, we're just trying to bring Banner forward and make Munis kind of work like Banner. Well, Banner was outdated, so the reason you go to a new system is that you want the new bells and whistles. Well, we didn't make the bells and whistles work. So we were doing a lot of manual work. And in Munis right now, the workflow that she's talking about is set up. When I came in, invoices for me to look at, I had to look at 3 times before it would release. Okay, and sent to the person that can actually pay the invoice. And there's still vestiges of that left right now today, because we don't know if something we do will break the workflow and send us into a stagnant position where nothing gets through. Okay, so will Munis work? Is Munis a good solve? It is, but we have to sit back now, and what I've worked with her is that we need Munis back in here to kind of re-implement us. Okay, we need to sit down with them and look at, this is what we need to be able to do with the staff we have, because in Missouri City, I had 18 members in my finance staff. You don't have anywhere near that. So the things that we could do to get things in place there are different than here. All time is of the essence. So we're working together to get Munis back in here to say, hey, we need all these things to work. Because if they don't work, we have an issue, because I only have so many staff to get it done.
So let me ask you this, so if Munis agrees, to work with us, will this be primarily a finance focus endeavor, or along with IT being a part of it, will other departments be a part of it as well?
Yeah, other departments will come along. Your finance piece, if it's broke, there's no need of bringing on the other pieces, but there are other subsystems out there that we bought with Tyler. One is EAM, which is the Enterprise Asset Management System, to make it easier for the people out in the field. We're also trying to bring in Intergov, which is for our Building Development Services Department, for them to do, so they can tie in and integrate into Munis, so that when they payments come through my system, I don't have to get a report and enter it. Right now, we are entering reports for separate departments, for different departments by hand. Okay, but if it was integrated into Munis, those, once they finish, they close out, the entry would come over to finance, and all we have to do is look at it. Oh yeah, it's like improve it, because we scan everything in the system now. So yes, the foundation is the finance system. Once we get this working, we're gonna bring the other systems, and we're gonna have to spend some money to get them up and running, because they need it. Out in the field, they need it. The development services need it. So yes, we will come back to y'all asking for some more money.
Okay.
Yes.
And we will listen.
Yes. We know the easy thing you're gonna get. But yes.
Well, just to piggyback on that, because when we say finance, right now, we are behind on patches. There's an upgrade, Tyler was always supposed to be just 2 major upgrades back. We're further than that. So we just got 2021.7 put on. It's a major upgrade. At this point, Adina and I have been talking with Munis. Since it's a major upgrade, what we're asking for is a re-implementation in place. We've already paid for the license, but we need the system to do what it's supposed to do. when we go into tests, things are not going to work because some of it's manual and some of it is not manual, and the system becomes schizophrenic, which is why the bank reconciliation is such a monster, because we did not utilize the functionality. So the patch is here, but we need the help now, because the other investments that you made, when she mentioned EAM and Intergov, we've already made those investments. Those applications are already here, so they won't work without finance coming up to the current version. So our ask is really an ask now that we would like to bring to the council, because we need to re-implement. And I think once we I know once we re-implement, because I just came from a site where we did implement this version and we were able to do our bank recon and able to, because of cities with very small staffs, you can't afford for the application not to work for you. But it will cost money, because what we're asking for is project management to come down here to tell us what the best practices are so we can implement those. In addition, experts to come with them so that when we say we want to do something, they're going to tell us how we can do what we need to do, because she knows how that deposit should go in. We just need the expert to tell us how we can configure it so it will go in. So we're looking to have that information from Tyler, and we didn't use only Tyler. We have another vendor that some other cities use. So we're getting the best value. And we expect to have those numbers within the next coming week, because the patch is there. We just can't move forward on it. And then I cannot get the efficiencies over neighborhood development, because we cannot bring that live without financials coming up.
Well, it's reassuring to know that you've seen this before, so.
Yeah, Munis is leader in this field. If you ask the sister cities around, DeSoto went live, Lancaster is scheduled. We already know that Cedar Hill is going live. Grand Prairie is using it, so it's pretty much here in this municipal space.
Dominating Texas.
So it's really nothing you could do about it, but we've invested so much into it, it would behoove us to get it working correctly, especially, and from IT, we have even a smaller staff than finance, so we have to have it working, because I spend my whole days talking to Adina, okay, let's try this to try to get it working.
Here's one comparison that I like to use on, so you got SAP and Oracle, which are the Maseratis, right? Top of the line, most expensive bells and whistles for everything, large cities, your District of Columbia's, your City of Houston's type of thing. Then you've got your Lexus, right? Which I'd say Tyler Technologies, Encode, Munis is the Lexus, right? 150,000, 300,000 cities, your larger cities, your cities need something like that. STW is more of your Toyota Corolla.
Yeah.
You know, gets the job done, gets you from work. Duncanville probably could have survived on
It's no more
Toyota
STW.
Corolla. And now it's
Open Go.
sorry. Right. So there's a different like classes. It's not kind of like the three, kind of kind of how you kind of see them. You know, you got a really nice Lexus and can't really go back to a Toyota because the engine's a little powerful now. So you just got to figure out how to get it oil changed.
But when cities like this, the move to a bigger software like that, we have to be careful because we count a lot on service.
Yeah.
If we don't, you can have a software like STW, but you got the greatest service. It'd be just like having time.
Right.
Okay. Cause I've been there. And so the service end for me was tantamount to having all the bells and whistles, because they would work with me to get the tools to get what I needed out. Now you go to Tyler, this big software, and they say, pay me the buck if you want this, all this to work.
Yeah.
And so we're constantly requesting, and we're not getting the response back from them unless we inundate them, like Ms. Hickman has done, with massive a number of cases that they got, and they finally saying, we can't let her just build up the cases, we just gotta address her. And so that's what we're going through now, is that we're spending time putting in cases to get things to work. And so you ask what's taking the time, this is what's taking the time. Because things just don't work. And when we have an error and issues come up, we're asking IT. And so we're taking them from their job that they got the whole network to worry about. So, but we're trying to work together to get it all worked out. And we are confident that it is gonna work out. It's just that it's not gonna work out.
It's gonna take time.
It's gonna take time.
Yeah, we recognize that.
But I will say something. I have called maybe 5 entities that are in our area who have munis. And I have found one who is using their bank reconciliation, okay, one. And they like it, who are in this area. But again, it has to do with, we are using, several other modules. We use payment entry, which is a module that they have for accounts receivable. And the one that I did find that was using Munis Bank Rec and loves it, they're not putting in their their receipts in the payment entry. They're using another method to put their cash receipts in. They're using general ledger. They're just using journal entry, and it works differently. So success in one area may be because of the way the whole process was implemented. It doesn't mean it will be successful in our area, because I haven't found.
I've heard from my experience that the bank reconciliation module that the Munis is not good.
Well, that makes me feel good that I made a great decision. Okay.
I've heard that's not good. I think. So I play IT in the background at my office. So everybody wants one system that does everything. I think that's the goal. Let's have one system that does everything really well. And I just don't think it exists. I think there's certain things that some softwares have to be add-ons to that for it to work. I know IT folks in the back don't like hearing that, but I think that.
But for us, even with MindSphere is working with Munis.
Yeah.
So for me, it's not heartburn because they're working directly with Munis. When you try to bolt on something and they don't know Munis, it makes it harder for us. So when I say bank recs, when I left my last city, worked fine, but we were having problems with the deposits. It was the way we were doing deposits. The software is trying to understand the logic of what we were doing. We had to do something different. But when you look at it, we have RecTrack for our parks and recs. RecTrack can integrate with Munis, but we got to get to the point where we have the latest version. We kind of got stuck.
Makes sense.
So once you get stuck, everybody else keeps moving forward,
and you're still stuck.
and we're still back here. So the upgrade is going to help a lot, but it's going to require something. So that's why I'm putting it on the table. It's going to require not just us saying we're going to do the upgrade, but we're going to have to get together, come up with some solid requirements, because we have to know what we want the system to do. And then they're going to tell us it's either in there or it's not. So I'm looking for Prego. It's in there, or it's not. And if it's not in there, then we're going to bolt it on. But we have utility billing, and that was a monster to come live. So we have a lot of investment in Munis, and we believe that we can get there. And then the last thing I want to say is Munis people turn over just like everybody else. So as the real sharp ones get scooped up by other people, and the applications, and I'll use ExecuTime because you're familiar, that's how we collect our time. When Munis bought ExecuTime, all the old people are gone. So they have a whole new staff. So when we have a problem, if you're on an older version, you don't have anybody that can help you with that. So we're kind of stuck right there. They'll say, what module? 2019, 1.22, 23, 23. Let me find somebody. That's where I am right now with some of the things that they pushed over. Let me find someone, but they are well versed in 2021 because they invested in it and they put a lot of money in research and training them.
Yeah, because that's where they are. And they're always working toward the next stage.
Absolutely.
So just like a car, the car gets too old, you won't find parts for it, you won't find nobody to fix on it.
That's right.
It is what it is.
I have 2 minor questions, just for my own edification. So when you were doing the bank rec, were you doing it in a test environment, or you were actually doing it in live?
In our live.
So you're doing it in live, so it worked in the live for October.
It's working in live.
So with no changing in the way that you guys are doing journal entries or anything, and
We
picking up
made,
everything?
we made it fit what we're doing.
Okay.
So we could roll it from, so we could roll it from Tyler into there, yeah.
Yes, because we just didn't have time
To change
to
it.
change it to Tyler, how Tyler wants
Wants
to
it to-
do, and that's
yeah.
why we had to come out of the actual bank rec module in Tyler and say,
Yeah.
hey, I don't know, we can fit into that.
Yeah.
That model ain't gonna fit me,
Yeah.
you know?
That makes
So
sense.
we
Does-
went with MindSphere, who was able to work with us to say,
Mm-hmm.
hey,
Yeah.
we can make this work,
Right,
this is
so
how
we-
we're gonna do it.
Yeah, we took our payment entry process and we said,
Mhm.
here's how we break it up. We looked at the bank, here's how the bank breaks it up. Now you tell us how you're gonna bring it into your system.
Makes sense.
Yeah, we didn't change.
And you're just taking like a CSV dump from,
Oh, no, it's.
or is that from,
It's
From the-
writing directly.
it's direct, or is it passing directly into the bank?
Right, Well,
Security,
pretty well.
we have them, they come in through a Hyper-V, so it's running on a virtual machine, a laptop.
Mhm.
And it's communicating directly with Munis. As I said before, they've already worked with Munis.
Okay,
And because they work with Munis, that's one of my first things. Do you know Munis?
Right.
Because don't come to us.
yeah, right,
And
right.
he's able to get the data and exchange the data back and forth, and we don't have a problem. So that data exchange is really, really
and
good.
then we are importing the BAI file.
Yeah,
And
okay.
All right,
So-
so, tell you what, at this point, you all can have a meeting after the meeting.
Okay.
But as far as the committee is concerned, I think, unless there are any other questions or comments, that we're pretty much done.
Yeah, my comments, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Vice Versa.
All right. We good?
Mhm.
You did.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you so much. It's 5:30. All right. It's been 2.5 hours of joy.
We love spending time.